Hi, I'm Janet Greaser. Welcome to the Webmasters meeting for March. We're going to go 2011 on this. And today we're going to be recording a session that Anna Nielsen from Nebraska.gov is doing for us. She's going to be talking about Google Translator and a couple different statistical packages that we can use for our websites. So here's
together a PowerPoint that you can see later as well as right now. It's just translation and data mining really. It won't go. Make it go.
Oh.
Oh, no, I think I know what's going on. Active window? Try now.
Start with translating your site. Why should you translate your site? I know I'm a native Nebraskan, and I think, wow, everybody speaks English. That's not true, and especially not true anymore. We have huge populations of people who are immigrating, especially to Nebraska. This information here is taken from the 2000 census, so not even the 2009. And the 2000 census, we had 7.9% of our Nebraska population that speak a foreign language as their primary language. So translating your site has become way more important than it used to be even 10 years ago. Many visitors to your websites, believe it or not, are not from the United States. And why not translate it when it's easy to translate your site with it, and always with a disclaimer. This is an image of the website from the 2000 census, just to show you that in the U.S. in 2000 it was 17.9% do not speak English as their first or primary language. This image is Nebraska. I just used Nebraska.gov as an example. This is our Google Analytics. As you can see, English US, yeah, for Nebraska, it's probably 98%. You go down, the next one is Spanish, French, Spanish, German is number 4. Polish is number 10, which is kind of interesting. And had I used the Secretary of State sites, this would be higher. In fact, you'll see a little ways down that even the Grape and Winery Commission, there's a huge population of visitors that are from Italy, France, amazingly enough, vineyards, searching our information for their own needs. The code is easy to implement. This is the link tag. All it says is, and this is for Google Translate, which is free, and actually way better than it was 10 years ago because they have volunteers that go through and pick out words that had been misinterpreted and corrected them. So it's actually really clean. In fact, in our office, I speak French. Our director of management, she speaks fluent Spanish. And if you've ever called in, the other Anna is Russian, not me, the other one. And she obviously speaks fluent Russian. So we've checked all 3 of those languages, and there's no issues aside from the fact that department stays department because there's no translation in Russian for department. But otherwise, there's no bad language, there's no miscommunications. Anyway, this is your translate tag. The only thing that you would actually need to change is right here, put in your website, and this just says English to Spanish. On Nebraska.gov, I chose the top 12 languages because it drops really fast, the percentage of people in the United States that speak those languages after the top 12. So if you ever need to steal code, you're welcome to steal my code. Call me. I'll email it to you. It doesn't really matter. Or you can go to Google Translate and do your own. Back to your, where do I go to get my site translated? There's several ways you can translate. You can have it professionally translated, or you can do what I did and use Google Translate, which is, of course, free. The professional translation, sample fees and rates. This is in euros, so you can pretty much double it, and each word is 10 euros, so 20 cents per, or 20 euros per target word, which is roughly 40 cents per word. So if your site is lengthy, you can be paying quite a bit. If your site is short, you're still going to be paying quite a bit. And this is for one language translation. This is what Google Translation Service looks like. You can add your website. It will automatically translate from page to page. And the really cool part about Google Translate, which is why I like to use it, is if they go off your site to another, one of your link sites or another agency site, or they go back anywhere, it automatically translates and continues to translate until they turn it off. So not only are you translating your site for them, but you're translating your linked sites for them, which is a really nice service to have. And it's very easy, user-friendly way to set it up. Translating your site. Google Translation, like I said, it's free. It moves fluidly from your site and your pages to another site. It's worry-free translation because you're going to put on a disclaimer either from your legal department in your agency, or you can take Nebraska.gov's disclaimer. It's at your service. But it's worry-free because everybody knows what Google Translate is. It's a big name product. They all know that, you know, if there's a glitch, it's not you, it's Google. And there's several languages to choose from. Like I said, Nebraska.gov, I chose the top 12 foreign languages. There are, however, an immense number of languages to translate into. This is Nebraska.gov. The layout looks a little funky when you translate it. However, this is translated into, I believe, Russian. And like I said, there's a couple of words that they don't have. But it even translates the header, since the header is image and text and the image and links. The only thing that it will not translate is straight images. So recovery.nebraska.gov and Governor Heinemann will not translate. The go button, obviously an image, will not translate. But it will translate the alt tags. So that's kind of nice. This is the Nebraska.gov top 12 languages. There's a few, everything from Arabic and Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Norwegian. The Norwegian translation is correct. I have a friend in Norway. She checked it for me. This is what I use. You're welcome to use whatever you want, extend it the way you want, you know, limit it the way you want. Disclaimers. Disclaimers are important. I work a lot with courts. They love legal ease. And so it doesn't have to be huge, but just make sure that your agency, legal department, or somebody checks it over so that you know that you're okay and safe. You know, because us as web designers, we don't want to get in trouble for anything legal because we don't have anything to do with that. We just make it look pretty and work. No translation is 100% correct 100% of the time. There are too many variations between world languages. I kind of covered that. I just wanted to point it out. that, and that's usually universally understood, but to protect our agency, here's the disclaimer for Nebraska.gov. It's on any site that I've created that uses languages, and this is what we use. You're welcome to take it, change it, reverb it.
Have you ever had anybody call you and say, this is not translated correctly?
That the disclaimer's not translated?
Not the disclaimer so much as something on your site.
No, I've never had anybody. In fact, I've had French people think that we're somehow French and email me in French, and responded back in kind because I guess Canada, you have to, if they speak to you in French, you have to speak back to them in French. Who knew? They do get a little cranky about it. Huh?
They already go back.
Well, it's actually part of their constitutional rights. Not that that affects us exactly, but if you can do it, I guess you probably should. Okay, we're going to move to statistical information, also known anymore as data mining, because most of the statistical information that we gather and that statistical programs gather is used for marketing, which is, as you know, half of your job as a web designer to market yourselves outside of the agency. The two I'm going to talk about are Google Analytics and Urchin. Google Analytics is free. It's very user-friendly. Has pros and cons. Urchin, if you are hosted by Nebraska.gov and your website is it's on our server, you automatically get Urchin. We just have it set up. So that's why I'm talking about these two. Both of them have pros and cons. Everything does. Is one better than the other? I have opinions. They're my opinions. Can you use both? We'll find out. Google Analytics. Pros, it's free service, very user-friendly screens. It's easy to understand, so if your boss says, what does this mean? They probably won't ever say what does this mean, because it really is. It's laid out for people to understand instead of in technical terminology. It's easy to forward and use the statistical data. You can forward it as a PDF, an XML, a CSV. I mean, you can email it, you can forward it, you can save it, it's very versatile. It's a reputable company. Google is big. Everybody knows who Google is. It's easy to install the code. In fact, the code is a little snippet. You just put it right before the end body tag on every page. It can't be any easier. And it has a multi-user setup, so you can have as many people be an admin. You can have as many people as you want to be a user. You can have a variation of combinations. It really doesn't matter, as long as you have a Google username and password or a Google account, you can add them to your setup. Cons. It does have limited information. Since it's a free product, it limits what you can do. If you have an application and you want to use it on a dynamic page like CGI, PHP, an application, stuff like that, you can only set up 4 funnels to use for marketing to figure out where people are falling off or coming into the dynamic application. So it is limited in some respects and some information that it gathers. The information is hosted by an outside source. So Google saves this information and retains it on their servers. Google is, however, PCI DSS compliant. But everybody who's outside of everybody has a chance to get hacked, and anything that's sitting on the outside is suspect. However, I use it on Nebraska.gov. I use it on most of the sites that I've designed because it is so user-friendly, and the chances of anybody using your statistical data to your demise is probably very minimal. And they do need access to your server, so if you have anything you have anything that is server or HTTPS secured, it has to have a username and password to access those pages. So there are pros and cons. Yeah.
You mentioned that you need to have a Google account.
Yeah.
So did you set up a domain account?
Did I? I used my I have a work email account. So Anna at Nick USA will access all of the accounts that all of the agency sites in Nebraska.gov. So if I ever, for some reason, left here, they would still have access to my email.
Who did you say would have access?
Nebraska.gov would still have access to that Google account. If I did anything that was freelance, then I would use my personal Google account. So yeah, I would, if I was you, I would set up something that like administrator at Nebraska.gov or whatever your general info email is, and set up an account under that. As long as you'll still have access. If the person, for any reason, leaves, or I mean, that's usually part of your security stuff anyway.
We have an account here at the commission. A separate email address.
Yeah. Yeah, Kurt.
Is there an issue with Google Analytics occasionally dropping information pages not being particularly accurate?
I haven't had any problems with it. In fact, like I said, I do have an opinion on which one I like better. My opinion is I like Google Analytics better than Urchin. It could be partially that I'm more familiar with it, so I'll give you that. But I like the fact that it does the unique visitors. It doesn't include any attached files like CSS files or image files or JavaScripts as hits. So when you get, you always used to get those reports that said you had 50 million visitors. You didn't have 50 million visitors in a month. Well, that's because they count all of those attachments on that page. One hit for the page, one hit for the 3 style sheets, and then you have like 5 JavaScript attachments, and somehow that page counts for 50 hits a piece, and you had 1 million visitors. Google Analytics, you'll see on the next slide, shows you unique visitors, and the unique visitors are actually by IP address. So it's nice to know that they're tracking the IP address enough to know that this visitor has hit 3 times, they only counted once. And since they track by IP address, they're not tracking by page or page requests. So when you see that unique visitors, it's actually, you'll see Nebraska.gov. Okay. Which one is this? Okay, this is Grape and Winery Board. Their visits are actually 119 visits. However, of those 119 visitors, they had 314 page views, and they had 2.64 page views per visit. This is the dashboard. This is what you pull up immediately. I mean, there's more content that you can get to on the side. Their bounce rate is 42.86, which really isn't bad because their job is to get you to the vineyard. So they're kind of partially informational but partly a link site, so their bounce rate being up there isn't too bad. Average time on site, people are finding what they need. It's 1.35 seconds. And they've had 57% new visits this month. So it's also nice to see the map. Everything green is people coming from different places. The greener it is, the more hits you have from that particular place. You can see the usage right there. You can see where the traffic sources are coming from, i.e. Firefox, Safari, whatever. And then the top couple pages, really they only have a couple pages in their site because a lot of it is sending people to other places. But you can see how many pages they looked at, the top whatever, and then the percentage of people that hit that. which is kind of nice. You
So
know?
it tells you what browser they were using.
Yep. And if you click on the traffic source, or this is an overview, if you click on the traffic source, it will tell you what browser version, what operating system, what their screen size was, what their connection speed was, where they're coming from, like if they came from Google Search, if they came from Bing, if they came from Yahoo. I mean, it's really, really nice to know where your marketing needs to go in that respect. But the great thing for web designers is all of those people that go, no, really, I need 800 by 600. No. You don't need 800 by 600 because nobody uses that anymore. You know, 1024 by 768 is what you really want to have, and it will get, will get bigger, and, people have these huge screens, and when you're trying to justify information, using the statistics and doing your data mining helps to prove your case and make your argument, because everybody knows statistics don't lie. So, and this is a small site, so they're really, really doing well with 119 visits so far this month. Urchin.
I have one more question about the Google Analytics. You said that they need access to our servers.
If it's a secured site, it's an HTTPS page, secured, it would need access, username, and password. If not, and it's freely publicly available, which most of our information is, once it's on the website, is public information, then no, it's the same thing as when you search for something. Yeah. Kurt. Sorry.
Which of these uses allow people to see a specific visitor, where they enter, how long they stay, where they move to, how long they stay?
If you go under content, you can see your top landing pages and the where they go, your top landing pages, your top exit pages. Google Analytics, I'm going to say don't quote me on this, but I don't think shows you, except for in the 4 funnel options that you can do from page to page, which is, I want them to, you lay out your process. I want them to go here, and then this page, and then this page, and then this page, like you have 4 steps or 6 steps or whatever. It will show you where they exit and what pages that they're exiting onto and leaving and going to. But except for those 4 funnels, you really can't see the whole timeline of where they go. But you can see your top exits, your top entrances, your most viewed pages, things of that nature. Like I said, analytics is limited in some information, and that would be one area. Yeah.
Bounce rate, what should the number be for that? What's good, what's bad?
It depends on. See, that's a catch-22 question. That depends really on your site and what the function of your site is. If your site is informational, like yours is, with deaf and hard of hearing, then your bounce rate should be lower. Because the bounce rate means that they came to your site and they left. So that either they weren't finding the information, or, and I know you have an outside links page right now. I don't know about, I'm sure, assuming on your redesign you'll have one. Check on the bounce rate on that specific page or those specific pages, because everybody has, outside links on all of their pages, which, of course, goes to your bounce rate. But especially the outside link pages, if that's really high, you can pretty much guarantee that they're utilizing your additional links, and you probably don't have a problem. Just because I'm neurotic, anything over 40% on an average website that's informational, I would get a little worried and start checking which pages people are leaving on. And if there's a lot of links on that page, then I'll relax. But otherwise, if they're leaving on your index page, then you have an issue, because they're not finding the information, or the information is there and it's not named something that they're understanding. And so that will help get your information or your links named correctly, or citizen-centric, as I like to say, because I don't do very well with governmentese. I get on the site and go, I don't know what that is. So if you ever need a guinea pig, I'm probably a good one. But that's the bounce rate. Nebraska.gov has a really high bounce rate, but it is a link farm. That's the whole point of Nebraska.gov is to get to your sites. And, you know, so I expect it to be high. If it wasn't high, I'd be upset. But that's kind of how you got to think about it. Kurt.
Many of our pages that are landing pages have very high bounce rate, so because people come into Google, find it, and go up.
Right.
So, just
Yeah.
be aware of that.
Yeah, and as long as that's the function of that page, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
Well, and maybe I'm getting a little too detailed here, but at what point is it considered a bounce, considering they're not going to stay on your website forever? And eventually they're going to leave, regardless of the reason. So at what point is it considered just a bounce versus...
Usually bounces, they only count 2 pages in. Otherwise, they assume that you found your information.
Oh, okay.
Each page will have its own bounce rate, but if it's like the 3rd hit,
Got it.
it won't usually count it. The first page counts a lot. They have some sort of mathematical
Right, yeah.
formula that I don't really understand because I'm not a math major, but, you know. Yeah.
Just Google Analytics, filter out web crawlers.
Yes and no. Web crawlers have a single IP address, so it'll count for 1, but it won't count for any more than 1. And normally people that utilize web crawlers and keep repeatedly hitting your site for some reason, whether it's to mess with your bandwidth or whatever, they utilize a single IP address. So that's the really cool part about it not worrying about pages and worrying about IP.
Well, I don't think Google counts itself when it's indexing.
No, no, and it doesn't.
Sort of thing.
No, it doesn't. Neither does it doesn't count Yahoo or Bing or any of those other ones. But actual web crawlers, yeah, it will count your IP address once. And normally they don't come from more than 1. And if they do come from more than 1, they're only the first 3 numbers in your first 3 sets of numbers in your IP address are actually the ISP, and then the last 3, I believe, are your individual account within that ISP. It goes in there somewhere. But if Google sees a whole slew from this one ISP for no apparent reason, they will look into it further, and your statistics are usually right on target. Yeah.
Does it involve IPv6?
I mean, ISP that supports IPv6, yeah.
It's coming then.
Well, oh, I know it's coming, but nobody...
I honestly, without looking, I don't know. I would I would assume with Google that yes, it is, but that's an assumption, and you'd actually I'd have to Google it. I don't know. But I would assume that they're on top of their game.
Well, actually, the first question would be, does your web server support IP address v6 connections? Because really all it's doing is calling some JavaScript.
Right.
So
From your
if you're
page.
accepting that type of connection, Google Analytics should work.
Yeah.
It goes by IP number. Is it reset after 24 hours? Because
Your IP address? Your IP address depends. If you are dial-up, it resets every time you dial in, except for the first 9 numbers. That's your ISP, okay? If you are cable or DSL and T1, well, T1 in a minute. Cable or DSL, you are pretty much continually connected. You don't have a specific IP address. within that, if you're a T1, you have an IP address that's a dedicated IP address, but internally then you have several subnet IP addresses that you can utilize. But the big thing that Google looks at is the first 9 numbers to make sure that one ISP is not, unless it's like, everybody in Lincoln has, well, almost everybody in Lincoln either has Time Warner or they have Windstream. So those two, if they're big numbers, they go, unless there's a huge influx, and then they'll take a look at it. But people like my ex-mother-in-law out in Boyd County, who has a T1 to our house because that's the only way she can get internet, she has a direct IP address and a constant IP address, and that's who she is. Also Windstream, but Nebraska's kind of funny that way because we're all spread out, except for Lincoln and Omaha.
What if she comes to your site every day, like years?
It'd be one new visitor, and then it would count her page views. No, that's actually good for you because, and here's why, because and analytics lets you. Okay, we all do a lot of testing, right? When you're doing your site, okay, and especially when you're doing a redesign or you're putting in new pages or designing it or whatever, and you hit that page 90 times. And if you're me, you keep clicking, you do one change, you click again, you do a change, you click again, see how it is, right? Well, if it didn't count your IP address the way it did, all 99 of those would be a visit. And you don't want that to happen. The second reason it's a good thing is a lot of state workers visit their agency site every day. Maybe several, right, exactly. They have it set up as a home page. They hit it every day. They notice every change. They notice any little nuance, and they may have been there 10 times that day. So it doesn't count that more than once either. So what it's doing is actually helping you have better statistics. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the same as page views or just visitors?
That's unique visitors. The page,
So if you visit it 10 times in a day, that would be 10 views.
right.
Can you tell her not to count?
I was just going to get to that, yeah. Unless you tell it, this address, this domain, don't count visits from this domain. So when I test, I have a @nicusa.com domain name for my email. And it knows me as a user somehow. I don't know. It's another formula I don't really understand it completely. But if I hit it, it doesn't count me at all. In fact, I set it up that if anybody in my office hits it, it doesn't count any of us at all because we're always going to Nebraska.gov. And I don't want to have to explain skewed statistics to my bosses or to the records board or anybody else because honestly, me and numbers are not friends. I can look at Google. That's probably why I like Google Analytics. I can look at analytics and I understand it. And I figure if I can understand this and I can explain it, then everybody else should be able to understand it because I'm limited in my capacity as far as math. But that's the really cool part is you can just say, @Nebraska.gov, and nobody in your office or anybody in the state would ever count. Problem with that, for you guys doing that, is if your customers are state agencies or county agencies that might have an @Nebraska.gov domain name, then you don't get those hits. So it's kind of, it depends on,
So
again,
you could block it by domain name as opposed to an IP.
you can do both.
Oh, okay.
But if you block it by IP address and you have anything but a T1 line and you know your internal subnets, then you're possibly blocking everybody who uses Windstream, everybody who uses Time Warner. I mean,
You can get down to this build. And that's
Yes.
what I mean is I would just block everybody inside the commission.
Well, yeah, but the commission, I'm sure, is running a T1 line with subnets in it. Okay. Now, Urchin. Urchin is, for me, not my friend. This is my opinion. It does not have to be your opinion. In fact, I would rather it wasn't your opinion, but this is a very powerful statistical tool. It has very in-depth statistics. It is able to be applied to secured servers because it's run on, if you're hosted by Nebraska.gov, it's run on our servers. Anything you have on there, it will figure out whether or not you've had hits on it. I mean, it is absolutely powerful. It's able to be used with dynamic applications. So anybody who has apps, we can track your funnels and see where your people are falling off, your customers are falling off and not doing online transactions. In fact, I'm in the process of setting one up for the DMV right now. It's a reputable program because it's made by Google. Okay, it has cons. It's not as user-friendly. In fact, me and Urchin are not friends. We have, drawn up paperwork, and, I have a protection order against it. I hate this program, but it does have great information. The amount of data may be overwhelming at first glance, second glance, third glance, for me, 100th glance. I still don't get it. I'm trying. But if you're into stats and you're into data mining and your bosses like data mining and, this is your focal point, this is probably the program for you. This is the dashboard for Urchin. This is what comes up as the first screen. Right here, this is where my eyes cross. For people that like statistics and numbers, you're going to love this because it comes up with the top 5 entrances, top 5 exits, your top 5 content. It gives you statistics about your bounce rate per page right there. It tells you whether or not your hits are up or down. This is also, in order to compare apples to apples, this is also a Grape and Wine Reward, just like Google Analytics view was. So you can see the difference. You can change your date range. You can change your view. You have the choice between executive, marketer, webmaster in your view, and that changes your options that are right here for your reporting and the options that are under those, because there are some reports that all 3 can get and 2 can get, and if you're a webmaster you can get all of them. And the information that's under here, every page has a helpful information section right here that tells you how this information is used, where it's coming from, why it's doing what it's doing, things like that. And if it doesn't help, because for me it's kind of like Microsoft Help, I Google it and come up with an answer on something. But this is the dashboard. This is what it looks like. You can export your information. You can print the information. You can email the information. It is really, really bold, really, really powerful. You can set your date range. You can do 1 day. You can do 6 months. You can do a year. You can do comparable. Analytics lets you do the same thing as far as the date range. Can you use, or Google versus Urchin, can you use both analytics and Urchin to data mine? Yes, we can. In fact, analytics, when you get the code, has a place for, if you click on the advanced tab, has a place where you can say, I use Urchin, and it will allow you to put in your Urchin user account number, which is a UA, and then a bunch of numbers after that, inside your code so that both will gather statistics about your site. Going back to Urchin one second. If you don't set up Urchin correctly, it will do the same thing as the old statistic programs did. It will count every attachment as a view, which the first time I had a site set up, I think is what really bothered me and made me not like it. I went to Nebraska.gov and it said in a month we had 4 million hits, and I went, no, we don't. And then I had to figure out how to explain that versus the 300,000 that analytics said we had, which is all in the setup. So if you're setting this up yourself, or your network admin or sysadmin is setting this up for you on your server yourself, there are settings in the setup that you need to make sure that you talk to them about, because you don't want the images to be counted. You don't want those page hits, except for the one page hit, to be counted. But we all have pages that have like 10 attached files or 20 attached files, and explaining the difference, if you use both of them, explaining the difference is not fun. I just wanted to touch on that because, like I said, I'm not a numbers person, and explaining the difference was hard for me.
Do we have control of that setup, or is that something we have to talk to?
Are you on our servers? You should be able to log in to Urchin with your username and password. What site do you do?
AT&T.
Okay. I know your site. Let me shoot you an email. Do you have the URL? You should have. Bruce probably emailed it. If you don't, let me know. I'll shoot you the URL. If you have any questions, I'll try to help you. It might be, not helpful, but I will try to help you as much as possible.
Right, but once I'm logged in, I have to.
Once you are logged in, you have access to it. If you need anything changed, you're going to have to talk to, well, you can talk to me. You're always welcome to talk to me. Anybody's welcome to talk to me. I will try to.
Can Bruce help me?
Bruce will be better. Email Bruce, get grouchy with him. Yeah. Bruce is a good guy. He will try to help you, and he probably will be able to help you way more than I can. Here's the links. I'm sure Janet will put up the PowerPoint, but here's the links: Analytic, Translator, US Census Data. My contact information, if anybody needs it, like I said, you're welcome to ask me questions, even if you've thought about them later. And I think I've answered quite a few questions, but does anybody have any more?
On the breaking line, since you have the Google set up, can I add that to my account or look at it, or do I need to do something different with it?
Send me your Google login, because since I set it up, I have like this whole account of agencies, and I'll add you as a user, and then you can have all your statistics right there in front of you. And if you have any questions, Google Analytics I am good at.
Well, I use the Urchin and I do okay with that, but if, Casey would want to see the Google stuff.
Oh yeah. And if you and Casey both want to have access to it, you're good with that too.
Okay.
Anybody else?
The people that are on Nebraska.gov, the agencies that are, is that a part of when you guys start housing them? Do you guys ever get new agencies to start housing?
Sometimes.
Is that a part of their, we do this for you, and then we can get you the Google Analytics? Is that just a part of their training?
I usually put the Google Analytics on anything I redesign, so if you have me redesign it, no, I don't even ask, I just toss it anywhere. And, because I figure, who doesn't like numbers? And I like to see them, I just don't always know what they mean, and I can't explain them. So, with analytics, I can always explain it. So I just kind of put them in the footer, and then if you do your own redesign, you can take it out if you don't like it. But I've never actually had anybody say, no, I don't want the statistics. Yeah.
If you see the page at Nebraska.gov where it gives you the option to translate to a different language, can you see what it looks like on the website?
Yeah.
What the users will see?
Now, when you redesign sites, do you automatically put that in,
What?
the translator?
No, I don't, because some people Courts especially, the Supreme Court gets a little twitchy about, even with a disclaimer, since they have like 90,000 lawyers there, they argue for months about what you can and can't do, and then they have the debate, and quite honestly, Janet Bancroft over there as their PIO is sick of the debate, and she's like, let's not even worry about it. But most sites have a language option. And they told me I can't do this full screen, so this is what it's going to look like.
Cool.
You said I couldn't make it full screen.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant in your website.
Do you have a
Sorry, yes.
particular language
No.
you want to see?
No, I'm just curious what this page looks like so that, how you access it. There's a tab at the top that says languages.
Yeah, there's a tab. Yeah. This is the home page. Just hover over languages, hit languages. The light box pulls up. And then whatever language you want, since I can understand this one, we'll go with French. It puts the header, the Google Translate header on there so that people know it's not your translation, it's Google. And it translates, so for education, for people who are moving here, you can go to, it's easier, this is text only. Okay, you can go to agencies, and it translates the pages as you go through them. Like if you go to, I think that goes to the governor's site. Yeah, it translates the governor's site, even though this is a totally, completely different website. It continues the translation until you click, or the user clicks on the original, and it will turn it back into English.
And then you close out that header.
You would actually have to back out of what you just did.
Start fresh.
So there's no additional coding on the page. It's just once you hit, like your translation page,
Mm-hmm.
then they can just go from there.
Right.
But
But
we
if you,
can do our own page to start people from, or we could say,
Mhm.
if you want to, you can start here and then go to our website.
right. If you look at the URL in your address book, the reason it doesn't take the header off is because it's actually under Google Translate.
Right.
So,
So there's no Xing out. There's no X on that.
No.
that frame.
no. In order to get free products, you kind of have to deal with one or two headaches. Usually, with them is having self-interest in it, some sort of personal goal. And this would be one of them. Oops. But for me, that inconvenience, if they're actually gonna, if they're actually gonna translate it, then they wanted it translated. Most people don't hit translate or get that far, hit the languages, and then actually select a language, because without seeing the code, or the alt tags, I can't tell you what those languages specifically are, except for the ones that I speak. Really, that hidden, people aren't going to translate without wanting the rest of the stuff translated.
Can you, does Google Analytics then let you know if somebody has translated your site?
Yeah, that's the language page that I showed you. It told
Only
you
if they started your language page, then you'll know that they've been kept going through, correct?
Well, you can look at your language page, or it'll tell you what language that they speak. Okay, I have all of this.
Doesn't it mean your site? You go to google.com/ and then
It won't track them once it's translated because they're no longer technically on your site. But actually, the code is still being loaded because the code for analytics is still on your site. So, yeah, actually, it might
But would you know that they're
track it.
following it in Spanish?
Not necessarily. I'm trying to think. I use this, and I'm trying to figure out how
Yay! My password's saved. So I was hoping that that was the right one, but this is wow, this is taking forever. This is analytics for my Nebraska.gov. It has everything from corrections, rules and regs, SOS, click DMV. But when you come in and let's see, Nebraska.gov, if I can find it. It'll,
Right at the top. Oops.
no. Well, they'll say Nebraska.gov. It's this one right here. Okay, here's your dashboard. 171,766 visits. Gives you page view, 59.34 bounce rate. It's not as good as I would like, but if you come in under content, you can look for a specific page, like your language, my languages page, which is language.html. Come on. Come on. You can do it. Okay. Content by title. You can do, Kurt, you can do some sort of content drill down, but it doesn't drill down as far as Urchin does, not even close. Containing, now we hope I spelled it right.
Well, the page titles I have other languages.
Mm-hmm. They're translated. They've translated them.
Using your translation page, they've gone to those.
No, but they've been translated, so they could. Of course. There's 14,993 different documents. Actually, while I'm on here, aside from languages, there is a neat feature here. On our search and on your searches, if you have a search on your site, I'm just going to hover over it, it'll tell you what they're searching for. The keyword equals jobs. So 134 people that hit the site are looking for jobs. So anything that says search/search.html, that's where our search is. Unemployment. So jobs, unemployment, you can pretty much add those together and figure out what people are looking for on your site.
Does it show up in a different, so that you can see what keyword people are searching for on your site in a totally separate?
Urchin will do that. Google Analytics,
Okay.
you have to have a little legwork. I can add and subtract in order to have something that I understand doing what I understand it doing. But we have both. So, okay, I've never seen this page before. But in here somewhere is a root of languages. The thing is, there's a ton in Nebraska. It's probably not the best to look at.
Can I take a stab?
Yeah.
I don't think Google Analytics will track the fact that a bunch of people looked at your site translated into French.
No, it won't. Yeah.
If that's what you're asking.
List on pages once they've been translated.
No, because what it is you're putting a code with a unique ID in the HTML of the page.
Actually, it'll.
And so the page is being loaded, but the content's being translated, not that code. That code doesn't know that your page was translated into another language. So it would just be another visit to that page, but Google Analytics would not figure out that it was a visit to that page in another language.
Yeah, well,
It
Yeah,
will?
yeah. In fact, here's your,
Okay.
it's Nebraska.gov has been translated into 79 languages. And this is for this month.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you have to add the top 2 and number 5 together because English US, English regular, and English Great Britain, they're all English. Spanish number 3 and Spanish from Spain, also all Spanish. DE is German, Russian, French, Norwegian, what is PT? It's Polish. Anyway, English US, you'd also have to add that one in. Korean, South Vietnam, I think. That's actually Germany. That's Swiss. So
when Michael said you had to put code in, that's just the analytical
That's the analytics
code
part.
in order to get your statistics
Easy.
in Google Analytics.
Right.
Okay. But you don't put any code in order to do the language. You just have to go to either your page that you have set up to make them go to French or English, Spanish, and then from there. So it's tracking. So it must have a way to track that you went to that page and then went off to.
Because Google
does.
knows you're translating through Google.
Right.
Google is smart enough to figure
Right.
it out, which I would say. Yeah.
Right. But it'll tell you how many people hit that, how many pages they visited, average time on site, new visits, bounce rate. And I hope, Nebraska.gov, I always hope the bounce rate is bigger than it is. It'll give you visitor trending, loyalty, browser capabilities, which is what we were talking about, everything from browsers, OS, screen colors, resolution, flash version, whether or not they're using Java support. It'll give you their network properties, which is their service provider, host name, connection speed. No. Well, I mean, people can make their browsers, but it's not a default, so people usually don't. They do mobile devices, which are becoming way more popular. So if you want to know, what your people are using as far as mobile, the iPhone is getting killed by the Android. But I would like to say that the statistics for this month are probably, if you look at your mobile stuff and you keep up on the news, the statistics for the Android are probably skewed. And the reason for that is the virus with the Android and the text messages and the data usage. And that's just been within in the past month. Not horribly skewed, because I do know that Android is killing iPhone right now, but that's probably skewed. I'm going to assume it is. Well, the Android, since it has open source apps and it's not as grouchy as Apple as far as what apps they allow in their app store. Oh yeah.
Well, the AT&T coverage in Nebraska.
Well, Verizon has iPhone
now.
now.
Well, now, but yeah.
Yeah, within the last month.
Right.
The last quarter of last year,
Yeah. Yeah, but there's also a ton more Droid that they consider Droid than just the iPhone. I mean, the iPhone, you have we're pretty much 3 that's dropping off, or the 3GS and the 4, and so you have 2 devices versus 20 that are Android. What was your question? Did I?
That was exactly my question about how you can track mobile access.
Yeah,
So that's exactly what I was wondering.
yeah. And this is really kind of nice information for me, because I can tell where you can even get down to the nitty gritty, like the iPhone, what kind of iPhone they're using. Usually, it's not here, but you can set up as goals, stuff like that. does little charts and graphs and, crazy stuff that I just want to look at it and go, oh, that's nice. And pretty much. But did you have your hand up? Okay. I can't hear the fan. What?
The languages have information add up.
Uh-huh.
With that, so the original settings on the machine as opposed to what's actually translated. Since you said you only had 12 languages available for translation.
I only have 12 languages. It does not mean if you looked at that top bar on the translate. I'll go back. If you look at the top bar on once a site is translated, they have the option of translating it into an alternate language, any alternate language from an alternate language. So even though I translated into French again, this top bar, you can translate from English, which is what the site is, but currently it's French, which is not going to, this is not going to work very well, but Macedonian, which I don't speak, and then you hit translate, and it translates it. So just because, and now this will count as a language hit, but just because I only select the top 12 in the U.S. because it really does drop off significantly after that, doesn't mean that the user can't select their own language, which is also nice in the fact that just because I don't have that language available, so if I only did English and Spanish and French, that covers the North American continent for the most part. They can, do the Korean or the Japanese or Arabic or Norwegian or Russian as they need it. Yeah.
Did you check to see what the top 4 languages in Nebraska were to make sure that some of those were included?
I did when I did the redesign, but that was 3 years ago. So I'm not saying that they didn't change. So if you want to go out and look at the statistics, and if you find that my 12 aren't the right 12, feel free to let me know. I'm not.
We have certain populations that settle in Nebraska, that settled in Omaha and Rhode Island, or something like that we might not be top 12 national.
Right. And I think you can get down that far in statistical information if you really data mine the census information. I didn't. I took the high road and went, yep, that's good, because I have a week to get this done. And like I said, they can always translate into, I can't imagine that we have a whole lot of Macedonians in Nebraska, but I could stand corrected. I don't know. Any other questions?
It doesn't translate PDFs.
It does not translate documents or images. So if you want a document translated, you can do what I do and cheat and use the Google Translate and copy and paste in there and then click, and it'll even tell you how it sounds, because my daughter's taking Spanish, and Spanish is not my primary language. For a secondary language, it's more of a right above Norwegian. And so when she asks for, Mom, how does this sound, you can actually click on the little speaker and it pronounces it much better than I do, for the most part. Never looks like what I think it should look like, but that's my shortcut for documents. So if you want a document in Spanish or whatever, unless it's a legal form that absolutely has, or medical form that won't have translated words. Yeah.
Just as a person who does translating, I would want everyone to, I would like to caution everyone that Google's not perfect.
Yeah, it's not.
That it's good to find a native speaker to back translate. So go ahead and translate it in Google, but then have them look at it and have them feed back to you what the
Yeah, like I said, no translation except for professional, and it's 100% all the time.
And there are dialects, so that may
Right. Google does have some variation for dialects, like you saw the English, U.S., Great Britain. It has Australian, and then it has just general English that doesn't really know. Because, yeah, you're right, there are dialects and there are slang terms. For the most part, I haven't seen a whole lot of agencies that use a lot of slang terms, but, you know, I keep trying with the citizen-centric wording and everything, so maybe, you know, actually, you know. I also haven't seen Ebonics as a language, but not to say that it wouldn't be in there either. Yeah.
Wouldn't a paid translator use Google and then just go ahead and fix it a little bit?
Well,
That's not a good way of thinking.
there's a lot of words that are similar, and I speak 3 languages. My kids, this is just an example, my kids take 2 of them. One takes French, one takes Spanish. And these aren't including English, because I obviously speak English. But when they're both sitting there doing their language homework, I end up speaking some half dialect between Spanish and French, and both kids are looking at me like, Grandma did what? You know, and the other one goes, oh, who was cooking? You know, and because I get confused. But the language translators are kind of, you know, the same in that they're not 100% all the time. And so she's absolutely right. If you have the opportunity to have somebody who's native speaker of this, that, or the other, you know, like we have a Russian, Spanish, French, Norwegian in the office, you know, have them look it over, even if they're just roughing it, you know. But really, they've done an incredible job with volunteers on the Google Translate that will go in and do the corrections, a lot like Wikipedia. But like you know, Wikipedia can be wrong too. So, you know, nothing's 100%.
And actually, if you have a second language account, you can sign up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anybody else? All right.
Well, thank you, Anna. Let's give her a hand.